On this episode of the Corp, we have Kevin Bacon. We hopefully you listen to Martha Stewart as well. We released Martha Stewart and Kevin Bacon this week, first week of Corp Season 2. Kevin Bacon. Now, we talked about this with him, but are we now 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon now that we've interviewed Kevin Bacon?
I think so.
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah, and Kevin Bacon, the one thing that struck out to me, and I'd love to ask you a question about this, the longevity in his career, but he also talked about the slump that he had from Footloose to JFK, where he never felt comfortable in the roles he was given. And I think that both in baseball and in the business career, talking to someone who's so successful as Kevin Bacon, and hearing about a time in his career where he didn't feel like he was at his best, that happens to everyone. That's very relatable.
And it happens in sports all the time. I mean, you can relate to having an MVP type year, and then a couple years later, you're out of a job. Right? And you're into a slump, and it happens in every field. But what I thought was so cool about Bacon is how thoughtful he was, how he was just a very, very simple guy, but very thoughtful, and he's had this incredible career. And I had a lot of respect for him, but after hearing him, it's just I could hear so much more.
You're absolutely right. The thoughtfulness and the big picture mindset that he's had is why I think he's stuck around for so long, because you see it in Hollywood all the time. Guys don't have, careers that stretch 30 plus years, and that's what Kevin Bacon has done. And he's got a new show right now, Showtime. You can actually go binge it all. We taped this before the show released, so it's actually nice. We knew that all the millennials listening to this episode, we knew they couldn't watch it week to week because they have short attention spans, so now you can binge the whole thing. All right, so my question for you on this one, worst slump of your career?
Oof. I would say it was 2006, and Dan, what was the problem with that slump? It was both sides of the ball. Usually you have a slump is either hitting or fielding. I couldn't fucking field or hit.
Right.
And I was miserable, and I just felt terrible. And that was the week where I decide to take my little baby girl, Natasha, and Cynthia to Central Park. And I'm so fucking dumb, I take off my shirt.
Oh, that's the week?
And then I get photographed.
Oh, no.
And that day, I make 3 errors. I think it was against the White Sox. 3 errors. So, of course, it was like the next 3 days, Arod, you stink, you can't hit, you can't throw.
Everywhere.
And you're suntanning. What are you doing?
You're getting a massage in Central Park. Yeah. All right, so what do you do when you're in a slump like that? What would you have done back then?
I think you have to slow it down, and you have to start visualizing. And, I'm the kind of guy that when I struggle, I want to do more. But I now have pulled back. And what you want to do is pull back, take a deep breath, trust your talent, and then start taking rewards in little bites. If you're in the regular life, it means making your bed. That's a win. Try to do that 5 days in a row. For me in hitting, it was take a walk. Try to get a base hit the other way. Think really small, maybe a bunt hit.
Hard contact.
Don't worry about the results. Worry about the process. And what you find is that when you think really small, really big things happen.
Would you let people talk to you like in the clubhouse if you come off the field and you're, maybe let's say 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts, and I'm your teammate, and I'm like, hey, man, that was good. That was a good swing. Good cut. Would you be like, shut up?
No, it was actually a pretty good sport. I wasn't like Paul O'Neill that he would like bang everything.
Right.
I actually wanted to do that most of the time. He probably felt that's why he was so happy. He would just take his angle.
Yeah, right.
I try to do the opposite. I try to be too cool for school, and I was crying inside, but outside I was like, yeah, I'm okay, man. Yeah, 0 for 4. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
and I was dying inside.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Kevin Bacon, a lot of analogies to that with his career, and talking about that little time where he had a slump. He didn't feel like he was making it in Hollywood. Before we get to Kevin Bacon, our friends from...
One more thing about Bacon.
Yeah.
Is I love what he said about his marriage. I think people are going to learn a lot about his longevity of his great marriage.
Yeah, it's kind of a thought process he had for his entire career, for everything. For the way he lives his life is just big picture, and I love talking to people like that who don't see it, day to day. They see, hey, this is a year, 10 years. This is a whole big thing I got going on.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get to the interview, our friends from LinkedIn, we are going to get some people, some jobs just from listening to this episode. So if you are an employer, you need to be on LinkedIn. And if you're an employee or someone who's looking for a new job, you need to be on LinkedIn, because we, Barstool Sports, have a bunch of job listings on LinkedIn. We're looking for candidates all the time. If you're not on there, we're not going to find you. You're never going to work here. And the Corp also.
The Corp, Arod Corp hires all the time from there. I'm actually looking for an executive assistant right now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for a job, call Jeff Lee. He'll find you.
Yes, you got to get on LinkedIn. Make sure your resume, everything is up to date. Make sure all your connections are up to date, because that's really how people get found now. You can't get a job at the Corp like I did by stalking you on Twitter. That is a thing of the past. We're only doing LinkedIn, right?
That's right.
Right.
Every day I look at LinkedIn because that's where the best talent lives. That's where we recruit. LinkedIn is amazing.
And that's a perfect way to put it, because if you own a business, if you're looking to hire and you're not on LinkedIn looking for candidates, you're not going to find the right candidates, because LinkedIn has so many people looking for jobs. Over 600 million members visit LinkedIn to connect, learn, and grow as professionals and discover new job opportunities. Think about that. Think about 600 million people. You can hire someone from that pool. If you're not hiring from a huge pool, you're doing yourself a disservice. If you just hire the first guy who incessantly tweets at you randomly at 2 a.m, you're doing yourself a disservice. So LinkedIn is a way to do it if you want to make sure your job post is up to date, gets in front of people you want to hire, people with the right hard and soft skills you're looking for. You got to do it with LinkedIn, because hiring isn't as simple as putting an ad in the paper or posting to a job board. When you're juggling hiring with everything it takes to grow your business, it's important that you reach the right candidates at the right time. That's where LinkedIn comes in. And a hire is made every 8 seconds on LinkedIn. So boom, new hire. Boom, new hire. That was maybe less than 8 seconds, but you get the gist. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can pay what you want, and the first $50 is on them. Just visit linkedin.com/thecorp. Again, that's linkedin.com/thecorp to get $50 off your first job post. So for all the employers out there, you're looking for new people, go to linkedin.com/thecorp to get $50 off your first job post. Terms and conditions apply. And if you want a job at Barstool, you want a job at the Corp, go sign up to LinkedIn right now. Get that job, because guess what? We just posted some new jobs right now. Boom. Right now, go sign up and get it on LinkedIn. Thank you to LinkedIn. Great sponsor.
And now, Kevin Bacon.
You're listening to The Corp, presented by Barstool Sports.
Okay, we now welcome on Kevin Bacon, everyone's favorite actor.
Not really.
No, that's what I'm calling you. Everyone's
Okay.
favorite actor. You have a new show coming out June 16th. It's called City on a Hill. It premieres on Showtime. It's star-studded. You're not only acting in it, but you're also co-executive producer, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited for this. I watched a little of the trailer. You have basically everything you want. It's like Boston, New York, a bunch of robbers, cops, crooked cops. Did you see this script and you're like, this is basically the perfect script?
Yeah, I mean, and an amazing character. And it's one of those ones that is kind of, it wasn't really on my radar. Nobody really spoke to me about it. It's one of those jobs that you get and you say, who fell out? Because they were like, here's a script. We're shooting in, a month.
Right.
This is the first thing I do. Is, well, really? Somebody must have fallen out. They still haven't copped to me about who that was. But, and I looked at the part, and it's just such an interesting part. He's a really, really bad dude. He is just pretty much everything. Every time he does, every scene he does, you go, really, Jack? The character's Jackie. Really, Jackie? You're really going to go that far? He's corrupt. He's on the take. He's working so many angles, and he's also extremely verbose. So he just never shuts up, and he's really, really well read. So that he's constantly quoting people that I don't even know these people that he's quoting. I mean, and so, when you take on a TV show, it's not like a movie, because if you're going to take a movie on, you say, well, I'll do it. Take a swing at it. If it works, I'll be on to the next thing. If it doesn't, I mean, it can take its toll on your career after a while. But a TV show, you have to think to yourself, do I really want to be playing this part for the next 7 years? Because that's the length of the contract that you have to sign on for.
Right.
And I had done some guys, a few guys kind of like in a row that were much more internalized characters, you know. They were troubled and men of few words and just smaller kinds of performances. So when I looked at this, I thought, okay, here's a chance to kind of bust out again and do something big and fun, and I'm having a blast.
So there's a lot of things I wanted to go off of that beginning, because it's very interesting, and I want to get into your whole career from the beginning. But reading a part, like what's the process of deciding, okay, this is something I want to do? Because one of the most interesting parts of your career, I think, is you do it all. You know, leading man, smaller part, whatever it is, you're kind of interchangeable, where you can go. Your range is so like large. What is it that when you read a part, you're like, that's what I want to do?
Well, you know, you mentioned leading man. In a funny kind of way, I don't think I've ever really been a leading man. I think I'm a character actor, you know. And the only way that I can kind of think about jobs is by character. You know, I got to go, is this someone whose shoes I feel like I can walk in? And is it similar to something that I've recently done? Or is it new? Is it fresh? Is it like, have I never been, like, I've played a lot of FBI agents. In fact, this is like my third or fourth FBI agent from Boston.
Right. Also, a lot of characters named Jack, right?
Yes.
It's like 8.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently. That's what somebody told me. Someone once asked me, how many Jacks have you played? I was like, I have no fucking idea. Am I allowed to curse, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Say
okay.
whatever you want.
Let it fly.
Right. Fuck.
All right. Yeah.
Damn it, shit.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I you know, this character, to me, it's like sometimes the decision is whether or not I hear the voice. Like, I hear his voice, not in like a trippy kind of, you know, spiritual way, but I can. The rhythm is there in the writing, and I'm hearing what I might, you know, do with it, and I start to see him, and I start to think about the walk and the clothes and the stupid mustache that I don't want to wear for, you know, 6 months of the year, but you know what I mean. It's who he is, and you know, this was just an undeniably fun part.
Yeah.
When you sit there and you were talking about this character, you must be conflicted, because you're probably saying, I cannot believe the crazy shit this guy thinks and does. And the fact that he's so smart and well-read makes him even more dangerous. But as a viewer, first of all, I cannot wait to watch this. I need another great show to watch. But as a viewer, would I sit there, watch you, and cheer for you? Because sometimes, or it's just totally against you?
I'm not going to tell you whether or not you're going to cheer for me. I think there's a lot of people, honestly, that are going to see my first scene and turn the TV off.
Wow. That's cool.
You kill a dog?
No.
Okay.
No. But, you know, I am a unabashed racist. Mm-hmm. The language that I use is completely hateful and inappropriate. I'm fucking around on my wife. I'm a cokehead. I'm an alcoholic. I mean, the list is just endless.
What would he drink?
I drink mostly brown liquor, but he'll drink anything.
Sounds like a terrible guy. Is he a Red Sox fan?
Of course he's a Red Sox fan.
Maybe I won't watch.
Yeah.
No, it's very, very Boston-centric, this show. You're going to have a tough time with it. I'm trying to think if we actually even... there's all kinds of sports jerseys, and there's all kinds of stuff. But
sounds like you're excited about this.
Well, listen, I mean, I feel like, you know, to me, I don't ever think about whether or not my characters are going to reflect personally on me, because to me that's not acting. Mm-hmm. You know, to me, you're not a real actor. If you're worried about things like, I want to be sympathetic, I want to be well liked, you know, then you're a personality, which is okay, you know. But to me, I just want to stay true to the reality of the people that I choose to play. And if you find yourself if you were to find yourself rooting for this character, then I kind of feel like that's on you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
There is an extremely heroic character that's played by Aldous Hodge, which is really the other main, part of the show, and he's very easy to root for.
How involved is Matt Damon and Ben Affleck in this project?
It really came from an idea that Ben pitched to our writer Chuck McLean, and Chuck is a very, very good writer, a young, extremely talented, smart writer with a tremendous amount of knowledge of history and Boston history and crime and politics and all kinds of stuff going way back. And he just kind of ran with it.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to start kind of at the beginning, because this podcast we talk to successful people and how they got to where they are, whether it be sometimes they failed and picked themselves up. So the start of your story I found was interesting. Was at 17 you already knew what you wanted to do, and it wasn't business, and it wasn't what your father did. It was to come to New York and try to make it in the acting world. Was that just something that was, when did that get stuck in your head? When did you get that itch?
I think I got the itch like probably around 13. My brother was 10 years older than me. He was a musician. I didn't grow up as a kid that was either very good at sports or a big sports fan. I started to really get into sports much, much later when I moved to New York. I was into rock and roll. I was into, pop stars. It's like I wanted to be on the cover of like 17 magazine. You know what I mean? I didn't really care how I was going to get there, because of the money, because of the girls, because of the, that whole kind of thing. And I thought about being a musician, and I started writing songs when I was probably about 12. And my brother, was always hoping to kind of shepherd me in a way towards that, but he was off doing that. And so probably with my mother's encouragement, I went and I took an acting class. And when I took my first acting class, I was like, okay, this is it. I'm done. Because I'm such a show-off, and I was born as a child that I remember my earliest memories being, if I walked into a room, I wanted people to look at me, and that's the kind of self-involvement that you need to be an actor.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's an incredibly self-involved kind of, you can use the word ego as a bad thing. I don't think it's always necessarily a bad thing. I think most people who are successful have a pretty big ego.
Yeah.
There's a difference between having a big ego and also being humble. I think those two things can coexist.
Right.
You can be humble and have a big ego at the same time. So I loved the idea of pretending to be somebody else, And when I started to, I wasn't even that much of a movie fan, but I started to look at some movies. I met this kid down the street, and his father had this thing that was like this giant video player, and he had these old movies that you could watch at home. This was like in the early to mid 70s, so it was like completely unheard of that you could actually watch a movie on this thing. I can't remember what format it was, some giant format, but it definitely wasn't 35 millimeter. It was video. And he showed me the movies of Brando and James Dean and Montgomery Clift. And then I went and I saw Dustin Hoffman in almost like back to back for some reason, because I think we had a theater where they would do like second run. I saw him like back to back in Midnight Cowboy and The Graduate, and I was like, holy shit, that's the same fucking guy. He's like a homeless guy from New York, and now he's like this preppy kid. I was like, how's that possible? So, when I guess probably by the time I was in high school, I was like, I gotta get out of here. I love Philly, but I had to get out of Philly, you know. And so I graduated from school probably like a half a year early because I was able to do like an accelerated thing and get enough credits from high school. Mm-hmm. And I had a job in a warehouse packing and shipping medical books, and I did that for about 3 years till the summer of 1976, and then I just packed a suitcase and came to New York.
And you came to New York, and you're like, I'm going to make it no matter what.
Yep.
And you end up being in a cult classic, one of the biggest movies ever,
Yeah.
Animal House.
Yeah.
After that, are you like, it's it? Like, I'm good?
Oh, for sure.
Like, this is all going to just, the next 40 years are just going to be gravy for me just from this one part?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I thought that I was 100% done. I mean, it was the movie paid minimum, and that was more money than I'd ever imagined. You know, it was something like, I don't know, $700 a week or something like that. And I was out there for about 5 weeks, I think. I went through the fucking money like that. I mean, I just went right through it. Had to get my job back as a waiter. Mm-hmm. The movie came out. I asked for my job for the night off. I was waiting tables on 72nd Street and Broadway. And went to the premiere. And, you know, nobody recognized me, you know. And I looked a lot different, you know, because I had the 60s haircut, and mm-hmm. you know, I'd grown my hair, and I couldn't pick any girls up, and it was kind of a disaster. I mean, I went back to the restaurant that night and just hung out with my friends, you know, hung out with my boys, and honestly, it was great. It was a great lesson.
Yeah.
You know,
I love that you had to ask off your shift as a waiter
Yeah.
to go see the premiere of your first movie ever.
Definitely, yeah.
That's perfect.
What was so pathetic was that, and then I went to the premiere,
Yeah.
and then I still went back to the restaurant.
Right. You thought
Yeah.
it was going to be like, oh, everyone's
Yeah.
waiting for me to be there.
Nah, yeah, you know, it's, and it took a long time after that to really, I mean, to me, one of the first times that I sort of felt like, okay, things are starting to even out a little bit is when I could give up the waiting job altogether. Because I used to go back and forth. I'd do a job here, I'd do a job there, I'd do lecture work on the soaps, I'd do a little, you know, if a movie would come into town or something, maybe I was doing a lot of theater,
Mm-hmm.
you know, working off Broadway. But when I finally could put the restaurant aside was when I sort of felt, okay, I'm in. But, you know, I never for a second was other than all in.
Right.
Can you think of a time where you went from average Joe pedestrian to, oh shit, I think I'm a little bit of a star now, or a big star?
Yeah, I mean, Footloose was really the big star thing, you know. But I was on the soaps for a couple of years, and so that was my first experience with actually getting recognized. The funny thing about the soaps, though, is that they think of you 100% as your character. Nobody knew my name. They'd be like, Tim, you need to be nicer to your mother and stop drinking so much. You know, all this, you know, things that were all related to the storyline.
Right.
But, yeah, I guess even after Diner, it wasn't really like, I wouldn't really call that stardom. I mean, it was, you know, I was, you know, some people in the film industry kind of knew me, and casting directors started to know me and stuff like that. But
obviously, you and I have obviously never been in a movie, but is it? How does that work? Walk us through it, because I'm kind of jealous of movie stars.
Yeah.
Right? So does the movie come out, and is it like 3 weeks later you start feeling the echo of, or is it months after or years after?
yeah, I think it was pretty quick, and I'll tell you why. Because there was such a machine sort of behind it once they knew that they had a hit, and once they wanted to keep people, and then it was like the press and the this and the that, and the weird thing was that for me, even though it's what I dreamed of and I'd fought so hard for, I was very resistant to it, because the movie in my mind, which I'm you know, eternally grateful for that movie, and I have nothing bad to say about it, but I had an image of myself at that point. I'd put aside the pop star idea because I'd fallen in love with the craft of acting, you know, and I wanted to be Meryl Streep. You know, I didn't want to be David Cassidy. And And so when the movie came out, I was a pop star.
Wait, so that's interesting. So you basically get into the business to essentially be in a movie like Footloose.
Exactly.
And then you get in Footloose and you're like, wait,
100%.
This isn't what I wanted.
100%. And I pushed back so hard that I think even when you look at like some of the decisions that I made after that I just sort of I was just pushing back against it, whether I was aware of it or not. I mean, I'll give you a silly example, you know. They came to me with the cover of People magazine. And the People magazine, that was a big fucking deal back then, to get the cover of People magazine. And I'm sure you've been on the cover about 1,000 times, but maybe not by choice.
Probably not for good things.
Yeah, for the right reasons. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, but and yours is coming.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'll probably be like standing behind him somewhere. Yeah.
And you know, I was like, okay, I'll do the cover of People magazine, but I'm not dancing. Because that's what everybody wanted me to do at the time. They were like, we got to dance. We want to see you dance. You dance. They could have to come on TV shows. Can you dance? Can you do the dance? To this day, they do it.
Right.
You know, at weddings and stuff, you know, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, I can't get away from it. So I get to this thing. I said, I'll do the photo shoot, and but I'm not dancing. And I get there, and the photographer's got a trampoline, right? And he's like, you don't have to dance. We're just going to have you leaping and jumping. You're just going to hop and, you know, I'm going to take you. I was like, no, I'm not. And so it was this battle with the photographer, and he got really pissed at me because clearly people had said to him, we got to get an airborne shot of Bacon. And when you see the cover, what they did, almost as a fuck you, was they took my dance double and had him get on the trampoline. So I'm sitting on the ground, and he's up in the air, like flying all around me. And they say, you know, something like, you know, Kevin Bacon stars in the movie, but his dance double does all the fancy footwork.
Oh,
so
no
they kind of
way.
like, yeah, they kind of fucked me. It was kind of like a little bit of a, you know, and that was a perfect example of like what I was kind of, you know, going through, and my kind of, you know, conflicted feelings about celebrity and about stardom. Of course, now I'd kill to get on the cover.
Right. So, I mean, reading up on everything, your entire career, you actually said that was kind of from Footloose until JFK. There was not a slump, but a time where you might have been fighting it.
There's a few turkeys in there. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So how do you bounce out of something like that? How do you, like, you know, Arod obviously knows to get out of a slump, you got to just get up there and keep hacking. What do you do if you're an actor?
Well, I think that that's one thing, is that you have to be willing to just keep, you know, I like to say that there is no secret to longevity. Longevity is a secret. It's that thing. You just keep throwing that shit against the wall, you know, and sooner or later somebody might say, oh, you know, I always liked that guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I didn't really have a choice, right? Because I didn't really want to do anything else. And then with the JFK thing, which is one of the few times that I really felt like you mentioned about Footloose, I felt it like right away. With JFK, I felt that right away too, as a turn, as a shift. Like I said, as a character actor, because I had lost track. And the problem with the movies, mostly after Footloose, is that they're movies for movie stars. Mm-hmm. They need to be anchored by a true movie star, you know, the guy that can just, you know, get away with the 3 Gs, which is the gun, the girl, and the good lighting. That's all he needs, and you're gonna want to watch him, you know. You're gonna want to watch him like, that's not me, you know. So those movies needed a movie star anchoring them, and it wasn't working for me. Because they weren't characters that I could really get my head around. They weren't like, they weren't deep enough or complex enough or specific enough, or, you know, whatever that was. Had this agent at the time, great agent, who said to me, I knew your work from the theater, off Broadway, off Broadway, in New York. And that was a lot of character work that I was doing. And she said, we got to find you something like that. And after we had that conversation, the first thing she sent me out on was JFK, and she represented Oliver, and I don't know if she called him and said, what do you think about this? And he was open to the idea, and that was it.
Kev, when you, Few Good Men, one of my favorite movies of all time, we just watched the entire family just a few weeks ago. When your agent gives you that script and you're looking at Jack Nicholson, you're looking at Demi Moore, Tom Cruise, Kevin Bacon, do you say like, holy shit, this is A, can't fail, and B, how enjoyable and what lessons did you learn from working with such great cast members?
I've never said can't fail.
Right. That's longevity.
Yeah.
You learned that.
I mean, I've learned that. And then you add to that list Rob Reiner, who was the director, and Aaron Sorkin's script. Yeah, it's funny, you know. I'd forgotten this till the other day. There were some other smaller parts that were more kind of like bad guys, and I was a little bit more drawn to them. And my wife, Kira, said to me, "Don't be an asshole. That's the part you should play. It's a better part. You know, you can play it with integrity, and you'll figure out what that character is." And she was 100% right about it. That was a shoot that had such a. It was if making a movie can ever be easy, I would say it was easy because of the level of professionalism that was expected from everybody, and everybody came on time. Comment Tom. Everybody came on time. Everybody knew their shit. Rob was incredibly well organized because so much of it took place in the courtroom or on sets. The majority of our work took place on one sound stage, and you know, Jack was inspirational. You know, to me, another one of the actors that made me want to become an actor. And the one thing that he really sort of he kind of broke new ground in the way that he could play a character who was kind of not A Few Good Men, but I'm thinking more like, Five Easy Pieces and The Last Detail and The Shining, a character who was kind of annoying, and yet you couldn't stop watching him. He's so compelling, and he has no desire to make that character sympathetic, which again goes back to that difference between a movie star and an actor. And to me, Jack Nicholson was one of the first people to really, really, truly embrace that and say, I don't give a fuck if you like this guy or not. I'm going to play him the way that I think he should be played. And so in A Few Good Men, to get a chance to even be in the same scene with him was incredible. And when you shoot a movie, for those of you listening who don't know this, I mean, there's a lot of coverage. You have to shoot scenes from one direction, and then you got to shoot it closer, and then closer again, and then you got to turn around and you have to shoot it again with all the reactions of everybody. And Nicholson came to the set that day, and obviously with that big speech, you can't handle the truth speech. Rob started shooting in Jack's direction because that's be the obvious thing to do. It's he's the senior among us and the highest paid, and he's gonna get the love first. And so he did this speech, and it blew everyone away. We were like, holy shit. And then they did a tighter size, and again, just as great, tighter, big close up, amazing. We're all knocked out. Turn around on us, and now he's got to do the speech for the jurors, for Tom, for Demi, for me, for everybody, 2 shot, 3, all day long we're doing that. And this guy, time after time, gave it. He's been off camera, not even on camera, for 4 hours, And it was so great to watch because if you're off camera, the Marines are very specific. We had like guys, consulted. They're very specific about the uniform, right? Everything's got to be, the buttons have to be lined up.
Great unis.
Yeah, it's like they're really, really, really hardcore about it. But once, and those uniforms are horribly uncomfortable. I hate wearing them.
Yeah.
But once Jack was off camera, he didn't really have to have the uniform on. So, the first take, it was like, he just kind of loosened the thing. So I can take the jackets off. But by the end of the day, his hair's all out like this, but he's still wailing on it. Still wailing on it. And I was like, God damn, that's good. Because I can tell you, there are those people who might not even stick around to give the off camera, I mean, maybe not for Tom Cruise, but
is off camera, for our listeners and for me that don't know what that means?
Yeah.
Off camera, is that just the voice?
Just the voice, yeah. He's everything that has been done in his direction is he's said on camera, and now he's just there so that we have something to act against.
Oh wow!
We have something to react to.
That's cool.
And I would imagine most people would just be like, just play the tape. I nailed it the first time.
Sure. Or look at this hand, or whatever it is. I'll be in my trailer, or I'm going home. I've got dinner plans. But so
you scared, intimidated? I remember the first time I faced like Roger Clemens or something. I was shitting bricks.
I would think so.
To a guy like Jack, I mean, I would be fucking knee shaking because he's such an icon.
Yeah, there's a couple there that were, that I would say him and Merrill were him and Merrill and Clint. Clint directed me. I didn't act with Clint. Those were the three that I was kind of like, oh boy. But most actors, I think, especially actors like that, who are that good and understand the power that they have, they're not going to play that up. They're going to try to make the people around them feel like they're part of this process too.
Is there a common thread with icons like that?
I'm trying to think. What would the common thread be?
Professionalism, on time, you mentioned.
Yeah. No, because some of them aren't on time. I don't know. Common thread. I think. I don't really know. I think you have to. I think you have to have the hunger to. You have to have the hunger.
What about like in a kind of a sports analogy, when you're with someone like Jack, does he elevate everyone else? Does he make everyone else?
Everyone comes with the game jersey.
Right, right.
Love that.
So I think that's, a big piece of, and I'm sure there's actors in Hollywood who think the same for you.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but, on working with Eastwood, we did this movie, Mystic River, also in Boston. And, at that point, it was Sean Penn, Tim Robbins, and Fishburne and me. And all of us had done, quite a lot of stuff at that point. And yet nobody is has had the kind of experience, both as a director, as an actor, as Clint has. And he just doesn't fuck around.
Right.
And, even after the first day, we were all kind of like, wow, we gotta be ready to go, because we're not going to get a lot of takes, and this is a great opportunity, and he demands that of everybody. And I do think that when you are at the top in a film, in a television show, you have a responsibility. Or let's say you can either take on the responsibility or not take the responsibility, but whatever's going to happen in the course of your day is going to filter down from the top. And if the person that's at the top is a pain in the ass, is an egomaniac, is late, is acting like an asshole, is drunk or high or whatever it is, it's going to trickle down. It's going to trickle down to the caterer. The caterer's going to say, well, fuck this. It's so I always feel like, for better or for worse, I want to set the tone, because I don't want just my stuff to work. I want the whole thing to work. I want the actor that I'm acting with to be great.
Right.
I want to get in there and start, knocking the ball back and forth. You know what I mean? Like I want it to look great. I want it to sound great. I want the music to, you know what I mean? It's why else do it?
Yeah, I mean it's a really good point, especially when you think like if you're the producer or the director, people probably like, all right, well that guy's made it. He doesn't have to show up on time and be on top of stuff. But you're right, like all the way down, people are going to look at it and say, all right, well if he doesn't care, I don't care, and kind of go from there.
Exactly.
What I always am curious with this was someone who has been in so many movies. What movie do you think didn't get enough credit? Like maybe wasn't as critically acclaimed as you thought it would be, and then what about the reverse? A movie that was like universally loved, and you're like, it wasn't that good. Like it wasn't my best performance. You know, one of those situations.
Great question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
I want to know the answer to that.
I refuse to answer that. Yeah. I think probably the first one that springs to mind is a movie I did called Murder in the First, which was about a guy who was in prison for stealing $5 and ended up, spending years and years and years in Alcatraz. And it's a beautiful movie, really, really well made, and again, it was a extreme character thing. I was emaciated, and one of those kinds of things, and I had a certain, kind of just a voice and a take on it, and a lot of real kind of extreme makeup, and it was a movie that just kind of like the timing was not, it wasn't released in the right way timing wise, and the only hope that it really had for any kind of consideration would be if it was positioned in a way to get awards. I mean, that's really the reality of our business. If you have certain types of movies, they have to come out in the late summer, early fall, and they have to be on this award cycle. And the studio decided that they were going to go kind of with another movie for that, because they didn't want to split it,
Right.
So they put it out in January, kind of flushed it out in January,
Right.
and nobody saw it, and I think it kind of got the shit end of the stick in terms of that.
And you also had to lose all that weight, so that's
Right.
like personal. Like
Right.
I had to lose all that weight for that.
Yeah, really. But one that I didn't think was that good that did well. I don't know. Friday the 13th. I was in the first Friday the 13th.
Okay.
Friday the 13th is it's okay, but it's it's not like there's a lot of great horror movies. I'm a big horror movie fan. I don't.
Right.
It was more of an idea. Okay, let's see a bunch of teenagers, get murdered, and it was an idea that stuck.
Right.
But as a film, I don't know.
I'm just happy you didn't say Air Up There.
The Air Up There, but that was not.
That would have hurt my feelings because I love that movie.
Did you?
Yes.
I'll tell you a funny story about The Air Up There. So this is a movie that, for what people don't know, I play a basketball coach who goes to Africa to scout a player, and then I have to end up playing. And as I said before, I'm just a lousy ball player, and especially basketball. It's this crazy thing with this game. You have to be able to dribble and shoot. Yeah. And so Bob McAdoo was my technical advisor. He was a great guy about him, crazy about him. And he went to Africa with us and everything. And we, he kind of trained me, and we, worked together for a long time. And somebody once asked him, what's the hardest thing he ever had to do in his entire career? And he said, make Kevin Bacon look like a basketball player.
We need to set up a game, because I think I've heard similar stories about Wesley's. Who's in
White Man Can't Jump?
Yeah. Who is it?
Woody.
Woody Harrelson. Yeah,
Woody
White Man
and
Can't
Wesley,
Jump. Yeah, Wesley couldn't play basketball either.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was in. They had to teach him as well. So it's like we need an all-star game of actors that don't actually play basketball.
Not going to happen, bro.
Yeah. Well, I can play. Listen. Well, no, I can't jump. No, I cannot jump.
So, Kev, you're entering 5, almost 6 decades, right, of being an actor. Early on, it seemed like it was a big taboo for the call it the Robert De Niro's, Anthony Hopkins to go sit on Johnny Carson's couch or David Letterman because they wanted to obviously be seen and paid for in the big screen. Today is come so far. You see Will Smith hire an army of people and double down on social media and YouTube. And it's just like really interesting to think how far the industry's come. You sit on both because you've been around for so long with the longevity. Where do you sit on that?
You know, I think one thing that's kind of interesting to me, I was thinking about this the other day, is that I'm on social media to a certain extent. And one of the things that social media, I remember a very, very long time ago when Twitter first came out, Ashton Kutcher said to Kieran, we ran into him someplace. He was a very very early proponent of Twitter. He said, this is this new thing. It's called Twitter. You need to fire your publicist. Sorry. And we were like, I didn't really understand that. And then it became a thing where what was interesting about it was that people wanted to share little pieces of their real lives, and it was a way in for us to kind of see celebrities in their real lives, not in this situation, not on Johnny Carson, not wearing makeup, not doing your, all dressed and doing your nice thing. But now I think it's kind of come back full circle, and I think that people are using it or think of it more as an element of publicity. Yeah. So the photos that they take of them and the things that they use are now, they're no longer really insights into people. Some people still handle it in that way, but it's really more about just another kind of advertising platform for yourself, your brand, your look, and they're very, very specific about it. So that piece of it is fascinating to me, from a business standpoint. There was a time when I looked at some actors who would make their mark by like De Niro, or Sean Penn, by not doing interviews or by keeping their lives out as a sort of mystery, and that had a really positive effect. It happened a lot with kind of like the New York actor, which doesn't really exist anymore. But I don't know, it just didn't end up being the direction that I went in. But I agree with you that there was years and years and years when people would say to me, so I started in the 70s. So, and people when the 80s started, they'd say, the business has changed. 90s, the business has changed. I was like, the business has not changed. To me, it doesn't really seem that different. Now, it really has changed. I think the digital age has really, really completely altered the entertainment business, what I do in movies and television and all that kind of shit. I mean, I'll give you an example. Even television, I would never touch television when I was a young actor. I was like, television? No. If my agent ever came to me and said I got a television show, I would fire the agent. Hands down.
Wow.
I would never, ever, ever consider doing a commercial unless it was only going to be seen in Latvia.
Right.
And that was part of the deal. And now, first off, television is amazing. I mean, I look at this part I'm doing now.
Right.
Incredible content.
It's great content. It's great parts. It's better than movies. I hate to say it. I love movies. That's my bread and butter.
Yeah. No, I agree. It has been a weird transition where TV, it hasn't replaced movies, but when you think about the cultural moments and what everyone is kind of attached to, a lot of times it's television. Game of Thrones is going on right now. Breaking Bad, all these television shows that kind of have broken out of that mold of the TV shows you probably said, I'm going to fire my agent over.
Yeah, I mean, it was, when I started, it was like, F Troop, and nothing against F Troop and I Dream of Jeannie, but, that was not really what I wanted to, that was not really what I wanted to do.
And I thought it was Kevin Bacon in Showtime. Right?
Yeah.
Or Netflix, or, and it's remarkable. I'm addicted to it. I cannot watch enough. Movies are okay, maybe once in a while, but I have to watch it every night and consume it differently.
I know. We consume it differently too. Yeah. Yeah. And I actually feel like there's an element of not to get too technical about it, but there's an element of because there's so many platforms and because the series are so much shorter, traditionally actors would make deals where they were exclusive to a certain network. And personally, I think the acting community needs to push back against that, because I don't think that if you do a part on one network, Netflix or Showtime or whatever it happens to be, Hulu, and you only do, 6 or 7 episodes or 10 episodes of something, that they should be able to stop you from going. I mean, somebody needs to be in first place in terms of scheduling, you know what I mean? Because you sign a contract and you need to put that at the top. But I think sometimes the idea of being part of the, the Fox family or something, having those, is kind of an antiquated thing. Because, and I also don't think that a lot of people watch content now and they're not actually quite sure where they watch it. I don't know if this ever goes, like, I forget.
All the time.
I was watching a show last night. I was like, what the fuck did I watch that show?
Yeah, you go to pull it up again. You're like, wait, was it on HBO? Was it on Netflix? Was it on Showtime? Was it on Hulu? There's so many places to watch it.
To your point, the thought of, 10 shows, right, 10 episodes, that they have exclusivity over the next 355 days doesn't make a lot of sense.
It doesn't make sense to me. And the weird thing about it is that, first off, I also don't think that it's detrimental to see an actor play one character and then see him or her on another show, because you go, oh wow, that's cool, I love that actor, let me watch the other show. Right. If they're airing at the same time, that's not so great, but you could kind of figure that out. And these seasons are getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and there's never been any kind of exclusivity when it comes to films. So to me, there's a lot of gray area there. So I think it's hopefully going to shift a little bit.
I want to bring up 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, because it went from everything I've read about it, negative. You saw it as a negative to a positive.
Yeah.
So how did the whole story go about?
Well, I heard about it on Howard Stern first.
And for those who don't know, 6 Degrees, it's basically you can connect anyone in Hollywood to Kevin Bacon within 6 moves on the chessboard, and you can kind of do that anywhere in life. Like, I know this person, that person knows this person, Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, it's like if you take 2 actors, if I was in a movie with somebody who was in a movie with somebody who was in a movie with that actor, that's how many degrees of separation. And he was talking about it, and then it just kind of started to come up, and people started literally to come up to me on the street. And this is before, I mean, the whole idea of something going viral was pretty early in the computer age, actually, and there was no social media. And but people would say, oh, I played your game the other night. College kids were using it as a drinking game. And people started to reference it. They would reference it in sports. They'd reference it in science. You know what I mean? And then I was booked on, Jon Stewart had a nighttime talk show called The Jon Stewart Show. And they booked the 6 Degrees guys on the same night. And I was like, I'm not going to talk to those fucking guys. This is like, they're making fun of me.
I'm an actor.
Exactly. Exactly. I thought the joke, honestly, was, can you believe that such a lightweight could be connected to Laurence Olivier, or Meryl Streep or whatever in 6 Steps or Less? That's just the actor's insecurity.
Right.
That's how I felt. So, so I got booked on the show. I met the guys. They were really nice guys, and over time, I just kind of went, you know what? I don't know. Look, it's not going away.
Right.
There's nothing. If you think about it, I started a charity, 6degrees.org, based on the idea, because I said to myself, if you take me out of it, it's kind of a beautiful concept.
It absolutely is.
Because we are connected. Because the things that we do here affect people on the other side of the world. The things that we do in our neighborhood affect people down the block, and also that the human beings, social media is the reason, I think, one of the reasons that it's so huge is that it's actually about connectivity. When people start talking about Facebook, they were like, I can get in touch with all these people that and that's what that is, getting connected. And I talk about, people are constantly looking for connections.
Yes.
If you have, two guys in that, they're stuck in the airport and, they've missed their flight, and they'll start a conversation, and the conversation will come around to how they're somehow connected.
Right.
Oh, really?
Who they root for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
right. My sister's cousin lives in Dallas. All that kind of stuff. It's something that we're drawn to.
Yeah. So do we count? Do I count now? Because I know that it doesn't.
No, not in my mind. But that's. The game is technically.
I know.
Technically,
but
a
podcast
yes, you
counts
do.
a movie.
Forget what I said.
Podcasts are actually more important than movies
I got
now.
one.
Just so you know.
So Jennifer's executive producing partner is Elaine Goldsmith Thomas, who says she knows you.
Yes.
So that was mine.
And I know you.
And you know me.
Yeah. Boom. Done. All right. So I'm good. I'm good.
Three?
I think it's just cool because it went from something that I could see how you'd see it as a negative, and then you've made it a completely, a cool positive with charity, and also, like you said, like people want to feel connected to each other, like human beings.
They do.
As weird as this world is now, they at the bare minimum they want to just be like, hey, I know this guy, you know that guy, we root for the same team, we have shared memories.
100%.
On Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
This guy's mastered Twitter, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about that.
So, Kev, a lot of our young listeners are, some are married, engaged, newlyweds, but I think everyone wants a long-term partner. I think the romantic in any human being, you want that connectivity. You have been now married over 30 years to Kira. Can you give us, all of us, some lessons of how to or why or?
Well, for a long time, I had two. I had these standard. It's a question that always made me uncomfortable, and so I decided to come up with just a standard answer. Mm-hmm. So there's been two in the past. The first one was keep the fights clean and the sex dirty, and then the second one was here's my secret to a great marriage. Don't ever ask a celebrity the secret to the great marriage. And so those are tired now. Mm-hmm. I can't use them anymore. Mm-hmm. I guess I'd say that the reason that I try to avoid that particular discussion is because it's very hard to, or almost disrespectful to the relationship to kind of whittle it down to a soundbite. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like when people ask me on a red carpet, what they're really looking for is one thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's not one thing. I can tell you, I just wrote a song, just popped out, called Play. And the idea of the song is that, people say it's so much work, isn't it? You guys got to work at it. You got to work. You got to make sure that you're putting in the work and you're putting in the work. I was like, really? Fuck that. I want to play, And that's what we do. Mm-hmm. We play. Mm-hmm. I think I just met somebody that I really, really like spending time with, and luckily she likes spending time with me. All those kind of cliches that you hear about, respecting each other and I think one of the great things about Kira, which is not so much specifically about how to stay married, but for a very, very long time, I was a bigger star, made more money, and I was the one that people would recognize, and she was had been working since she was 16, and did a bunch of big movies, and but was really so dedicated to the kids that they kind of always came first. And through that entire time, I never felt a sense of competitiveness from her. You know what I mean? It was never like something good would happen for me and she'd be like, oh, fuck, I wish why can't I get that? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. or someone's always asking for your autograph, and I'm, why don't I, it was always, she just was so supportive of us as a team, I mean, it's corny, but it's a team.
It's great.
It's a team.
This is the most emotional portion of this entire podcast. I like it though. No, I mean, it's fantastic.
People are turning it off right now.
No, I actually think people are going to say that's the moment. That's the most real moment that we've had, because it's what you're saying is kind of true, and you're getting to the heart of it.
She's directing right now an episode of City on the Hill, my show that I'm on. She's on episode 7. I was just up in the Bronx, and she had a scene where she's this woman's falling down a set of concrete stairs, and she loves directing. I think I've never seen her as happy as when she's directing.
Well, I got to brag for you a little bit now, because I have a proud moment in my research reading about you. You said one of the things that I usually tell myself is don't brag or don't say I told you so. But you did tell her early on that she should be directing, and she's a wonderful director now.
I did. I told her, I said, honey, you're going to love it. You're going to love it, and you're going to be fucking awesome at it. And I was 100% right. And I think that...
How'd you know that?
Because, I'll tell you how. Because if I'm standing on a set, and she comes to visit, I'll see her over there going... And she comes over. If that doesn't play because it's a podcast.
No, that works.
No,
it was a bunch of really fascinating gestures.
We have 14 cameras.
Anyway,
You should have seen what Kevin just did.
Yeah, it was amazing. No, she's like kind of like she's chomping at the bit to give me a suggestion or to say something. And sometimes she'll even come over and whisper something. I'm like, hey, you want to cool it? That's Ron Howard over there. You know what I mean? And I think that, as independent and as strong, I mean, she's been making her own money since she was 16 years old, and has been on plenty of situations in a still completely male-dominated industry. But I still think there was a part of her as a woman that thought, can I really boss all these boys around? You know what I mean? Can I really be the one leading? And I think it was just like that last little piece of it was keeping her from stepping up. And when she did, it was like game over. Mm-hmm. She knows now, and she just it's great. It's great to watch because she has such enthusiasm. And she's such a good leader, and she has a great visual sense and all the things you need. Yeah. And the actors love her, of course.
Can I do a couple dumb questions?
Sure. Yeah, dumb is good.
Do you ever dream in character?
Wow, that's not a dumb question. I like that question. I guess I don't.
That's part of the bit, is that I say it's dumb, but it's really actually genius. So thanks for just revealing it. No, actually, a couple of them are really dumb. Try that. Don't worry, a couple of them are very dumb.
I try that. I don't think I dream in character. But I do have dreams about work, obviously, and they're always pretty similar. I don't know my lines. I didn't get the script. They're classic, actor nightmares.
Yeah. All right. What's in your rider?
My rider?
Yeah. When you're sitting in your
in my trailer. Yeah, it's funny. You don't really have a rider on a movie.
So there's not anything that's like. Basically, what I'm asking is like, do you get free candy?
Oh yeah. Okay. I mean, if I want. It's pathetic. We are treated, especially if you're people say, well, I wonder why actors end up acting like such babies. It's because we're treated like babies. We're picked up, we're woken up, we're taken to the set, we're driven like children, we're bathed and clothed and hairs and makeup and everything is taken care of.
Right.
I mean, it depending on what your hierarchy is, because it's still unfortunately a very hierarchical gig. More is taken care of or less is taken care of as it goes down the food chain. But there's when I'm working, I want for nothing.
There's nothing that's like, if you don't have Kevin Bacon's M&Ms, he's gonna freak.
No, there isn't.
Okay.
There isn't.
See, I told you they were dumb questions.
No, there's not. There's nothing that's like that. But there are a lot of things that miraculously turn up. Mm-hmm. You know.
Yeah. In 1995.
None of them are here, by the way.
Yeah, that's true. So you go ahead, freak. Yeah. You can freak. In 1995, you were on the sexiest man list. What happened after?
I don't know. I didn't even know I was on it in 1995.
And then you just like,
God, that's a long time ago.
Did it just go away? What happened?
I just lost it. I lost it overnight.
Is it better to be on it?
96, it all went south.
Yeah, but is it better to be on it once and never again, or never on it? Because I've never been on it, so I haven't.
So you have
peaked
nothing
yet.
to compare it to?
Well, I haven't peaked yet.
Uh-huh.
I'm just now getting to my peak.
Okay.
So.
Let me know when you make it.
Okay, all right, I will.
Yeah.
All right, my last dumb question. How much credit do you give to your name for being successful?
Oh, yeah, it's 100%. Yeah. Kevin? You mean the name Kevin?
Yeah, Kevin.
Yeah. No, people have asked me literally if I changed my name to Bacon, and I say, what kind of an asshole would change your name to a food? I mean, it's you just get so much. I get so much shit from it every time I was a kid. I mean, It's like, hey, and people to this day will come up to me and make an egg joke and really think that it's the first time I'm hearing that.
Right.
You know.
Right.
It's astounding.
But I do think there is something to be said. Like, I have a theory. There's certain sports players, like Jeremy Shockey was an okay tight end, but his name made everyone be like, Jeremy Shockey's the guy. Like this quarterback, Matty Mock, who played for Missouri, sucked. But Matty Mock, you're like, come on, that's a quarterback. Chipper Jones. But he was really good. But like, there are certain names where you're like, that's the name. This guy I can trust. Right. And like, you have a name that everyone can remember. So I actually think that, if your name was like, I don't know, Kevin O'Neill, you'd probably never have made it. You wouldn't be sitting here right now.
All right, good. Well, then I'm not going to change my name. Let's
it's
put
positive.
It that way.
Did you trademark it? Trademark it, Bacon.
Yeah.
So I have a couple just rapid fire because our audience likes this kind of fast answer games. So would you say, as investors, we have a lot of great young investors, would you say stock market or real estate?
In the long term, real estate. I would. Yeah, you just want one word.
Yeah, I mean,
I wish I had taken. I mean, I think back on, I bought a piece of real estate when I was fairly young, but I really wish I kept up with that.
Yeah.
So 96 Upper West Side, that's pretty good.
Oh, it's good. No, I'm talking about like the 80s.
Oof.
Yeah.
That would have been great.
Yeah.
LA or New York?
Wow. I think I still feel that I'm a New Yorker, and but I used to define myself as a New Yorker that can't stand LA, hates LA, and now I really like it. And both my kids are out there.
You got to put the little plane in your Twitter bio that you're
that mean?
bi-coastal.
That's
People
cool.
just like to
That's
do
very
that.
cool.
Just be like, oh yeah, I live
A lot
in
of
New York
credibility.
and LA.
Is that the
So
little
cool.
plane in your Twitter bio, Mitch?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee or yerba mate.
Yeah.
So you're in great shape. Our audience wants to know, are you more of a cardio guy or a lifting guy?
If you don't keep switching it up, it's useless in my opinion.
Okay.
All right,
Let me give you some workout tips, okay, buddy?
No. We get that from Big
You
Cat.
give it to me, yeah. I'll take them. Because I'm in bad shape.
Footloose or A Few Good Men?
Wow. I don't know. I guess. One's for fun and one's for one for the meal, one for the real.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one for me, in my research, just want to get the record straight. Are you more of a Yankees Knicks or Flyers Eagles?
No, I'm more of a Yankees Knicks. And this, and
Okay,
you know, it's a funny kind of thing about that because people lose their minds over this concept. But the truth is that I really root for the Philly teams too. Mm-hmm. And it is possible in my mind to live that dual existence. And if you end up in a game with the Giants and the Eagles, then I feel a little kind of, funny about it. But, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I was over the moon. And, the last night, watching the 76ers, or as much as I could watch of the end of that game, I was like, I'd love to see the Sixers.
So, as a guy who you said at the beginning of the interview, you didn't love sports growing up. What's your favorite sport now?
Basketball.
Okay, nice. I mean,
favorite athlete of all time?
Oh, favorite athlete of all time.
Yeah, really good one.
Maybe, I don't know. John Starks.
Oh,
wow.
Going deep.
I didn't see that coming.
Charles Oakley.
Charles Oakley.
I like that.
So guys who can't actually play basketball, they just mug you. Got it.
New York hardcore.
Yeah, you like New York muggers.
Charles.
Got it. All right. So, Kevin, this has been so much fun. We appreciate you doing this. I also have to mention Diner. I told you beforehand. It's one of my dad's favorite movies. He made me watch it as a kid. That and Cool Hand Luke. So
great, man.
One of the best movies out there.
That one really holds up.
Yeah, it really does. It does. And it's, speaking of sports, I was saying to you, like, one of my favorite scenes when they're about to get married and he gives his fiancée a quiz and she fails it.
Yeah.
Don't want to give it a whole thing away, but it's like very, very funny. I feel like it becomes more relatable as the years go along, too. Guys who are obsessed with their teams.
So, Kevin, a true 5-tool star. Huge fan of your work. I just want to remind all our listeners, premiering City on a Hill premieres on Showtime on Sunday, June 16th at 9 p.m. A 1-hour drama. It's going to be a dandy. I cannot wait. Thank you, Mr. Kevin Bacon.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
It's fun.